everyone. This is Catherine Adams.
And Elizabeth Wallace. And you're listening to Binary System number 12. And tonight we're recapping Welcome to Night Vale, episode 74, Civic Changes. We're going to go listen to the episode. And as always, we encourage you to go listen to it, because when we come back, we're going to spoil the hell out of it. See you in a minute.
This is random, but I kind of want to go out and get some wood chips and put them in a bag labeled painkillers.
Yeah, no, so do I. So they're continuing their tradition, very recent tradition, of reading aloud an excerpt from the new Night Vale book, one every week up until they release the book. And this week was something on the page 300 about how the medication they gave her was just a bag of wood chips labeled medicine, wasn't it?
I think it was just a bag of wood chips, so she wasn't sure how effective it was going to be.
Yeah, probably not very, but yeah. Anyway, so that's a nice random moment. There's a whole bunch of announcements about what's on the Night Vale YouTube channel, which a lot of stuff, every episode, if you're a person who likes your podcast in YouTube form, which, handy little hint, you can find our episodes there too, but also, they've got backstage interviews and behind-the-scenes recordings and all sorts of fun stuff. So definitely go check out.
One of the Night Vale cast put together animation that was just a compilation of their whole tour, the live tour that they did recently. So I think all 40 locations.
Yeah, stop-motion animation, which now I definitely have to see that. That sounds awesome. But we start out the episode, and Cecil begins it with a rereading of an old announcement that the city council would like him to talk about. He reminds us about all the rules about the dog park.
Like dogs are not allowed in the dog park, and people are not allowed in the dog park. And he finishes it up with a little addendum by the city council, and it's shut up about the dog park.
Yeah, and that there are going to be no changes to the dog park. But I believe we're going to hear that not everybody in Night Vale is very happy about the fact that dogs can't go into the dog park.
No.
More about that later. He also, he thinks there may be a chance that the reason why there was a reminder about this might have been certain radio show announcers and certain scientists possibly using the dog park as a portal to the desert otherworld and then talking about it on the radio, but he could be wrong about that.
Sounds like Cecil's definitely been caught being a little blabby.
Yeah, well, as he does. But then he tells us a little bit about sports, and the Night Vale Scorpions won their first match by default because the Desert Bluff Vultures had to cancel because of lack of funding.
Yeah, apparently the town's only employer is no longer in business.
Yeah, that's made quite a recession over there in Desert Bluffs. But who really cares? Because it's Desert Bluffs, and we don't like them anyway.
No, we really don't. But I think the high school team in Night Vale is going to need a little bit of help because their star player, well, not only is he no longer on the team, but he doesn't technically exist, which they still haven't gone into too much detail about that. He was just basically caught not existing, so he had to be disqualified from playing. But that's okay, because Malik Herrera is pursuing his new goal of being a conceptual artist.
Yes, he's making wood carvings on living trees. He's doing them on the trees in the Whispering Forest, which would usually be a very bad idea, but since he doesn't exist, he's immune to that whole thing where they flatter him with compliments and turn him into a tree. He's doing okay so far. But yeah, it is a shame because Night Vale's going to be playing the Pine Cliff Lizard Monitors, and most of their team is ghosts, so they're a little hard to tackle. Do we know Pine Cliffs? I don't know. Where does that fit in the whole desert otherworld world?
I don't know. I think that might be the first time that we've ever heard about them, but you would think that having a player that doesn't exist would be an asset against a team full of people who aren't alive.
Yeah, but I guess you can have ghosts. Ghosts do exist, you know, so that technically is allowed. But if you don't actually exist, then you just can't play, and that's just the rules. You have to accept those things.
Do you know what doesn't exist?
What's that?
Mountains.
No, mountains do not exist. We've already made that very clear. More like nothings.
They're more like nothings, yes.
Yes. We also found out we have a new intern at the radio station, and so that makes us very happy and very worried. But you know what? I think this one's going to be okay.
Yeah, she's figured some things out, like the fact that Cecil wanted her to go do a report on the dog park, and she wrote a very long, detailed explanation on her palm so she could show him to Cecil while he's on the air about why she's not going to be going to the dog park, because interns at the Night Vale Community Radio tend to die, and she doesn't want to die.
So she would much rather stay at her desk. And Cecil tries to explain to her, I don't know, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because the last intern that he sent down to cover the dog park became mayor. So
yeah, that's right. But how long was Dana in the desert otherworld before she became mayor? Was it like 2 years or something?
It was over a year, I remember, because I remember always being surprised every time we heard about her again. I'm like, oh, wow, Dana's still a thing. Holy cow. And then, who knew she'd end up being mayor? Nobody else figured that. But that, for our new intern, Danielle, that's not a good enough reason. So,
no, I don't think so. But I think she's keeping busy. She's apparently in charge of social media, and she's been transcribing all of Cecil's emails. And I love this little detail, his Hannibal fan poetry.
Cecil writes Jaws/fiction, so the fact that he writes Hannibal fan poetry makes perfect sense to me. And I really hope the fan artists and fan writers out there write us a little bit of poetry so you can see exactly what that's like.
Yes, absolutely. But even though Danielle was not willing to go report on the dog park, we got a call from John Peters, you know, the farmer.
Right.
And he gave a lot of detail about the protests that's going on at the dog park. I mean, all of these citizens are standing there absolutely motionless. They're, completely nonviolent. They're fixed in place. They're just standing there. And then at one point, these birds came up and started eating people's faces and the tops of hair on top. And Cecil's just kind of appalled. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, John, are you in a cornfield?
There's a long pause. John Peters is not admitting anything, but I kind of started to wonder if that was the case when he was talking about that one person who's standing there with their arms outstretched with a fixed expression on their face and a straw hat, and the crows are avoiding that one, but they're landing on other things. And I'm like, that's a scarecrow, John.
Oh, we got a return of the sponsor segment, and tonight's sponsor was Knife.
Yes, I like that one. Do you want to cut something? Try Knife. Want to poke a hole in something? Use Knife.
Yes. Do you have one large thing and you want to make it into two or more smaller things? Well, a saw would work, but also Knife.
And then we got to hear the knife, which sounded suspiciously like a buzz saw, but yeah, I guess that technically counts. But anyway, so yes, Knife.
And then we got another report on the dog park from Pamela Winchell, who was doing an emergency press conference. And she talked a little bit about the dog park, but then she said she really wasn't listening to what people were saying. And then there was a long ramble about how she doesn't have time to listen to all this information people are giving her, and the fact that there's always someone over her shoulder or under her shoulder in a headlock.
And then she's wondering, she's like, are people mad about dogs parking? Why would dogs park? Dogs can't drive. And I'm like, that's a true statement. You do have to admit that one. It's a very true statement.
But then she finished up by saying, oh, and Cecil, can we schedule our coffee date for later? I've got a dentist appointment then. Bye. And then the beep. And then Cecil's like, oh, I guess that was a voicemail. Never mind.
She did have an interesting proverb for us. She did point out that it takes more muscles to frown than to think about being sad. And I'm like, that is also a true statement. So she's very pithy today, I thought.
She sounded a little like Kevin in a couple of places. I really can't put my finger on how, but it was enough to creep me out a bit.
Yeah, well, they both are probably pretty self-centered when you get down to it. So,
drink.
I think I hear a siren. Drink! It's coming any closer? No, we're all good.
Okay. So, the next segment we went to was the hole in the back of Ralph's.
Where the people would huddle in, yes.
Yeah, apparently they're not huddling anymore. Now they're nestling.
Yes, exactly. But we shouldn't make any assumptions about them liking to nestle or not liking to huddle. Nestling is just a thing, and huddling is no longer a thing. Hey, there goes that V8 engine down the street.
Is that also a drink?
I don't know. It's at the very least worth an acknowledgement, so yay.
Yep.
But then we hear more about the protest going on at the dog park, and this time, for real, it is like the dog park. It's not a cornfield.
Or a voicemail.
Or a voicemail, right. and there are people shouting at the hooded figures, which
that kind of creeped me out too a little bit. It's like, wait a minute, you're not even supposed to look or acknowledge their existence, and now you're shouting at them?
No, and demanding things from them. And Dana has decided that she'd like to talk to the city council about this and maybe relook at this. That was one of her plans when she first came into office too. She wanted to open up the dog park for people.
And the city council kind of shouted her down on that.
Yeah, and they kind of did it this time. They thought it was a terrible idea, and they sent out helicopters to spray the entire town with sedatives. So, yeah.
And Cecil's still recording, but he's getting really sleepy. So he decides to take us, and my note here says, decided to take us Z weather.
Yes, pretty much. And the weather this week was I Love You Oddly by Rebecca Angel, and it was just single woman singing and a piano in the background. I really liked the piano. I thought the chords and everything was really a very fun little song.
It was fun. It was almost like a very tame drinking song or a kind of adult children's song.
Yes,
that sort of tone to it. It's a very charming song, I thought.
Yeah, I liked it. It was very neat. We come back and Cecil's all rested and full of vim and pep from his little midday sedative-induced nap, and he lets us know that they have decided to open up the dog park to dogs.
But there are some rules.
There's a few rules.
And I wrote them down. So.
Oh, okay. Let's hear them.
Okay. Well, you must have a dog. That's a rule.
Yes.
You have to have paperwork proving that you're related by blood to the dog.
Yes. Very true.
You can't actually bring the dog into the park. The hooded figures will play with the dog, and the owner will be kept in styrofoam for the duration of the dog park program. Now, that doesn't say for like the duration that they're going to stay, or just as long as the dog park remains open to dogs, the owner will be packed in styrofoam. So there's that, a little unclear on that. There's going to be a slight bump in gas taxes to pay for the program. And they're also raising the obsidian fences a little bit higher around the dog park. And there's going to be some nice landscaping, whatever. So,
yes, and also they're not going to give you the dog back. No. So when it's wondering, does the owner stay in styrofoam as long as the dog's in there or for the duration of the dog program? It's kind of the same thing. So
it does sound like it. So if you take your dog to the dog park, it won't be returned.
No. But Cecil's congratulating everybody because it's one small step closer to what they want. And I'm like, is it? I don't know that it is.
But we did get a new description of politics, because he said politics, everyone thinks of it as arguing about who gets to pretend to be president.
Yes, no, it's definitely different. He also gave us another little proverb at the end. He just said to remember that horses leave hoof prints on your heart. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just to remind you that horses are dangerous and they will kill you. And as long as you know that, you can do anything. And I'm like, it's a lot of true statements this episode.
Yeah, because I remember Mom saying that the best way, because she loves horses, but she says, really, if you're going into a pen with a horse, you've got to keep in your mind the question, how can this animal hurt me?
Yes, exactly. And apparently in a lot of ways. So
leave hoof prints on your heart.
Yes, or your chest or your face, depending on where you were standing. But that was the end of the episode. So it was just fun little, just a real typical Night Vale episode. You know, something happened.
Yeah, a nice little callback to things that we haven't really discussed in a long time, like the dog park and the hooded figures and Pamela Winchell and her emergency press conferences, even if, a lot of that wasn't actually what we thought it was. It was nice.
So anything else geeky going on with you? What were you and Nathan up to today when I had called you earlier?
We were watching episode 6 of Sense8.
Oh, nice. Yes. What was going on in that episode?
There was an orgy with 4 members of the Sense8 cluster. I guess, is that what it's called, the Sense8 cluster? Or?
Oh, they even said at one point. Crap. There's a name for it. Their group. I'll have to look it up. I'm a bad fan. There's a name for the group of 8 is what they're called. I don't think it's cluster. I don't think it's orgy either, but that is definitely what was happening. I thought that scene was very fun, actually.
Oh, it was. It was terribly fun. But I'm loving everything about this whole show. I mean, especially what's struck me is the music in places. Like this episode started with the Weepies, The World Spins Madly On, which is one of my favorites. But I haven't thought to look it up. There was a song that was playing when Will, the police officer, was walking through the building when he was trying to get the feds to let him see Jonah. So Jonah or Jonas? Jonas, I think.
I think Jonas,
Okay, yeah. So he's walking through the hallway. Meanwhile, in Korea, Sun is walking through basically a sex club, looking for her brother and kicking ass of all the security people who were trying to get in her way. And the music that was playing in the background was just really cool. Like that very much.
Nice. Have you gotten to the scene where she was at a fair in India, like a big festival in India? Have you seen that yet as a child?
Yet. No, okay, I definitely haven't seen that, because she's just, the last big splashy scene we saw with her was when she was getting married and she passes out at the end of that episode. So
gotcha. Yeah. There's a neat, just like, in my mind, it really kind of sums up all the awesome visual elements of this show. Just this one scene of her at a festival in India. Very well done, very pretty. But yeah, I feel like I need to go back and watch it again, especially since I wasn't quite so sure about the ending, so that'll be it.
Did you know that it's been renewed for a second season?
Yeah, and when you see the ending, I'm it's not that they didn't leave it open for it, but you'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's kind of hard to rewatch something. I've got 2 more episodes of the most current season of Doctor Who to watch. So I just saw Flatline last night, which is the one about the 2-dimensional creatures. I'm such a sucker for stories about 2-dimensional creatures living in a 3-dimensional world. There are more of them than you would think. But it was fun. It was very cool.
That was awesome. But the thing we rewatched last night, Mummy on the Orient Express.
Oh, that was fun too.
It was fun. I mean, it was just a really good standard episode. But then the revelation of the word that would make the mummy stop. I mean, I see that. I'm just like, my heart.
It was a great moment. It was really, really neat. But yeah, so I've only got 2 more episodes left, which I think, when does the new season start? Like any second now, as of time of this episode coming out?
Last night, I believe.
Oh no! Oh my God.
So I was going to correct you there. It's no longer the most recent season. It's last year's season.
Oh God. There is something, my friend Jordan sent me something. You might want to Google it. There was a promo picture done for Doctor Who, the newest season, and it's the Doctor and Clara and 2 Daleks walking in a crosswalk. It's a recreation of the Abbey Road picture, the Beatles' Abbey Road album cover. But there is, did you know that there is a conspiracy theory that says that McCartney was killed a very long time ago and was replaced by a double?
And that one of the reasons is because he was barefoot in that picture?
Yes, because apparently people are buried like that, which I don't think that's actually a thing, but it's
some people were buried like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you look at the Doctor Who one, now the conspiracy theorists, there has been an official announcement. This is not a spoiler, but this is going to be her last season, and the conspiracy theorists are running all over this picture saying that this is a signal that she's going to die.
Because she's barefoot. I noticed that in the picture, and I wondered about that. So.
Well, there's also apparently some stuff going on with a license plate on the Volkswagen Beetle in the background, so you should definitely see that one as well. But yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
I love conspiracy theories. I think it's just, when I heard that Paul McCartney was killed and replaced by a double, I'm like, what? Get out.
There's another, it might be Sgt. Pepper, the cover of that with there's like a massive amount of images and all of them standing in the front and everything. Yeah. And there's so much in there that people have been using to indicate the exact same conspiracy theory about Paul McCartney dying.
But that's going to wrap us up for this week. So for more weirdness and fun and geekiness and all sorts of things, make sure to check out PixelatedGeek.com with all of the podcasts about tabletop and gaming and movies and comic books and everything in between.
And also book reviews, which Elizabeth and I both have a regular posting of reviews of books, sometimes recent, sometimes not. Sometimes it's a graphic novel. Sometimes it's more than that.
Yes. So we got a lot of that going on. Definitely check out all of that. I'll try and make sure to check out Binary System on Facebook, and I will always post links when we have such articles going up. And make sure to check out Binary System Podcast on PixelatedGeek.com, but you can also find us on YouTube and Podbay and iTunes. So we're all over the place.
Yes, except Twitter, which is still not a thing, but we're working on it.
Well, we need to make that
we're actually thinking about working on it. So.
Yes, we are. It's only a few more steps until we actually do the damn thing. Yeah, that's fine. Other than that, we will talk to everybody in 2 weeks.
Talk to y'all later.